Welcome back to Nailed or Failed Reviews in-depth video series on how to develop and install a solar panel system for your recreational vehicle. We're finally on the home stretch here on video 4 of 4. This is the final video in the series where we're going to show you how we actually mount this whole solar panel system up onto our camper trailer. We're going to go through all the steps to actually finally finish creating this aluminum framework to get mounted onto the camper trailer roof. Again, this is our DIY cost-effective solution, a very cheap cost-effective solution on how to create framework for these solar panel systems. There are other things that you can use like T-Track, but again, we're not using that because it can kind of get expensive depending on the materials that you use. And from what we figured out, the way that we're doing it, creating this aluminum framework, is about the cheapest way that you can do this, because again, when you're talking about doing a solar panel system for your RV and then the batteries and the inverter, it can get very expensive. And so we're trying to, keep this as cost effective as possible. So again, stay tuned for this final video where we're going to show you guys how we actually finish creating the whole framework for the solar panels to mount to, and then how we actually get that whole framework mounted to our camper trailer. So let's check it out right now on Nailed or Failed Reviews. Okay guys, so now we're in the garage because we got to prep these rails, and also you need to make sure that you prep your roof surface where you're going to be attaching that Dicor and VHB tape. You want to make sure you just clean it with something good. I just use a simple green, in a bucket of water, and that'll clean it off really well. You can hose it all off to make sure it's nice and clean. Do that, when it's really hot like it is today. It's just sweltering outside. I'm just dying here, but you want to make sure that's super clean. And be aware too, when you clean your roof, if you scrub it, those white rubber roofs, and then you rinse that off, the little white particles will get onto the side of your trailer. So you need to make sure that you're prepared, that you wash your roof and the sides of your trailer all at the same time, because otherwise it'll dry and leave a bunch of white stuff on the sides of your trailer down the front from scrubbing it's just some type of white particles that come off that rubber roof. So anyways, we're going to prep this rail here. And again, it's really important to mark your top side and the bottom side of this rail, as well as where the tape goes. Like, we marked where our bend was going to start and where the remaining piece of the rail is going to be in contact with the roof. So we're going to clean this now with acetone to make sure it's super clean for this VHB tape to attach to. And so this stuff isn't cheap, so you want to make sure that it goes on there good and you don't waste it. You can find this again at Home Depot, and we'll have it on our Amazon links. But this is a Scotch Mount double-sided VHB tape, 30-pound holding force, and this is a 1-inch thickness, so it's going to fit, or 1-inch width, so it's going to fit perfectly on this 1-inch aluminum square tube. You want to mark your spot where you want to stop the tape with a screwdriver, because the acetone will take off any of that marker that you put down. So let me do this. You also want to make sure that you do the sides of the rail, because again, what we're going to do is put that VHB tape, we're going to set it down, and then what you can do is you can drape Dicor over the edge and it'll run down and basically capture the side of the square tube, and then make a nice little bond from the side down, like a little L. And so you want to make sure that you clean not only the bottom of this for the VHB tape, but also the side, so that the Dicor will stick really, really well. And again, that's why you want to clean your roof also, because you want your roof to be super sticky and primed for the Dicor to stick perfectly. So we'll clean up these edges here, and then I'll show you how we get the panels down. All right, so now we're going to prep these panels, because we're not only going to screw them down with the grommets, but because there is about a 19-inch gap in between grommets, we're going to put some VHB tape into here. Okay, so I'm going to stop it right there real quick, because moving forward in the video, you're going to hear me mention using this VHB tape in a couple different places. And you already saw me talk about using it on the bottom of these frame rails to actually stick it to the roof of your camper trailer, the back part of these rails. And I guess, moving forward, we did this video in 2020 of spring, and now it's January 2021, and we've had to remove the panels to do servicing. And, thinking about, okay, what if you had to remove the whole framework to service something on your roof? Then I would say that you might consider using Velcro instead of VHB tape. So because when you mount this to the rubber membrane, to actually get this off of there is fairly difficult, so that you don't rip the membrane of your roof. So again, if you wanted to use something like Velcro, it might make it easier in the future to completely remove the system. Now you're also going to see me, what I just started to mention here was using VHB tape on the back of the solar panel itself to mount it as a secondary holding device to the aluminum frame rails, along with the screws and the grommets. I wouldn't use that in this situation. I would definitely use Velcro, because what happened is we needed to take our panels off because we just didn't want them exposed to the winter weather, and it was almost impossible to get them off of the aluminum frame rails because I put VHB tape all over the sides of it. And so I finally did get it off of there, but it was extremely difficult. And again, if you ever need to service the panels or replace it or do something, it's going to be a nightmare to get them off if you use VHB tape. So just don't use this on the back of the panels, use Velcro, and it's up to you if you want to use VHB tape or Velcro on the bottom of the frame rails where it's actually going to attach to your rubber roof membrane. And then we're also going to take this opportunity to mount our PVC pipe in the middle, which, if you remember from the beginning of the video, is that this is going to be our middle support. So we'll run a strip of VHB tape right down the middle and then just stick this to it so it's stuck against the panel. And then that way the middle is completely supported, and it can, we don't have to put any tape on the bottom of it. We're just going to utilize it as if something does, some snow gets on it, it'll just push that down. So what you want to clean your panel with is rubbing alcohol. You do not want to use acetone. We use acetone on the aluminum and on metal. Don't use it on plastic. And you just want to clean this with rubbing alcohol to get it completely clean the best you can. So now what we're going to do is we're going to screw these down to the frame, but I wanted to point out that you should probably make some measurements before you do so. And also another big thing is based on where your cable is going to be coming out of your roof and how you're hooking your panels up, you want to make sure that you decide where you want your junction boxes to be in relation to each other. So again, we're basically making sets of 2, and so we want our junction boxes to be together, and you want to make sure before you tape it and screw it down that everything's in the right position. So I always mock everything up just to make sure I'm double checking myself more than twice, because I definitely have screwed some things up before. And so you want to make sure that those are in the right position. So what I'm doing is down here in the front, and again, I'm hoping that this will help maybe with the airflow coming over the front of the trailer, is I'm going to space the panel back 4 inches. So we've got a 4-inch gap here before the panel, before I screw it down. And then behind it, I have a 3-inch gap that I'm going to make before I screw down the second panel. And to show you guys what we're using, these are just self-tapping metal screws. So these are 3/4 inch. And then I'm using a washer on it to better grab fully grab the grommet that's already installed in the panel. So these will work really well. These are 3/4 inch, and so I've got my measurements, my marks already set out. So what I'll do is I'll just take this panel off for now. Okay, so again, up the front. Okay, so those are down. Then we'll take a screw. Again, these are self-tapping. Okay guys, so that's it. That's how you put this thing together, this made up DIY frame that I came up with. And it's pretty dang sturdy. You know, once these are all screwed in, you've got 6 attachment points on each one. And I think using those metal screws is gonna hold it down just fine, along with that VHB tape, you know, in between each grommet. And so I just wanted to show you guys, you know, how it all looks. So it's one big unit now. And I'm gonna leave those ends. I was planning on cutting off the tail end of it, but I think I'm just gonna leave that just because, again, that's gonna give me more surface area to cover for securing this whole thing to the roof. So anyways, I wanted to show you guys on camera how much this thing weighed. I haven't weighed it yet. Yeah, right at 14 pounds. So I think that's great. You know, total 2 of these are gonna be 28 pounds. And then we're gonna have sort of a modified, smaller version. So I guess you could say we have a little bit more than that, you know, pushing the 35 pound mark, depending on how much my 2 that are going side to side will weigh. But anyways, I'm pretty happy with the way this turned out. You know, I already tested, like I said, the other side, and so now we have 2 full sides. All right, so I've got my frames that run front to back all set. We've got panels mounted. And now I'm working on the side-to-side panels, the 2 that are going to go in between the antenna. And so here's my mock-up. Bracket these, so I'm going to use a little L bracket to connect each frame for these middle panels to the main ones, so to each side. And then the front frame rail for this panel here, I've got it curved now. I put a nice curve in it so that it matches the front trim piece that's on the cap. So that's going to sit on that same trim piece, and we'll screw that down in 3 places, and then again use an L bracket to connect these 2 frames. And so we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 actual points on the very front of the trailer screwed right into the frame inside of the trailer that makes up the trailer. So I think that those connection points will be super secure. And then, like I said, this back rail will be mounted to the frame with an L bracket. And then the second panel here going side to side will also be mounted. So I have all of these bent, and they're all based on their position, sort of have like their own custom bend based on the crown of the roof right there. They're all a little bit different. But you can see here sort of like the idea of how it's just going to match up, and then I'll be able to attach it with some L brackets right there. So what I'll have to do is sort of build this in place up on the roof, because I don't think I can actually carry this whole thing up there at once without bending something or screwing something up. So all right, so in this part of the video, I want to give you guys some footage of how we get the middle frames situated up on there once we have our 2 solar panel assemblies made for each side. So what you have to do is actually put a slight radius in each piece of the framework for the middle solar panels, because the radius of the roof is different as it goes from front to back. So what you can see here is I have my front middle frame piece that is going to sit on top of that die core and the trim. There's actually screw heads there, so I had to radius a little bit more, and then once I screw that down, I'm hoping it'll just suck itself down really nicely to that trim piece. But basically it's matching the radius of that trim piece sitting on top of those screw heads and the die core, so as you can see it sitting there. So now once I have all my pieces bent, what I'm actually doing is assembling this whole frame to my side frames as one unit. And again, nothing is attached to the trailer because I wanted to make sure my frame assembly was completely put together with the solar panels installed before I screwed it down to the trim piece, just again to make sure that everything was aligned properly and that nothing was going to be screwed up and then try to screw it down to the trailer frame. So it worked out really nicely. What you're seeing me do is actually just using these standard 2-inch L brackets that you can get from the hardware store. We're screwing those in with 3/4 inch self-tapping machine screws that are going to create some nice threads that you can unscrew and screw these back into if you need to. And then what you're going to see here is once we get all of this assembled, then we're going to again double check ourselves by actually putting all the wiring together to make sure that the wires are going to reach properly to this wiring harness. Again, this is a 4-into-1 parallel wiring harness that we're setting these up on. And again, what I'm doing here is just making the connections, getting the wires run under the panels, because again, since we're lifted off the roof a little bit because we're mounting it to this trim piece, we can actually run our wires under the frame for the panels. Now in this part of the video, I have all the frame assembled with the L brackets, so everything's as one. And what we're doing is we're going to start by putting in one screw into the very middle of those front panels for the middle panels. And once I actually put one screw in and then screwed the two screws into each frame for the sides, I realized that it was super secure and there was no reason to put 3 screws in that middle frame piece that you see me kneeling next to right there. So what I'm doing is I got one in the middle and then I put one on each side just to see how it would be. And you can see me, I'm just checking everything out, making sure it's nice and secure. What happened though was that once I actually got the other side, the left side attached, you can see this right piece of the frame that's closest to you here in the frame was not lining up with my initial measurements. And you can see I had a hole there already. Got my wife to throw me up my center punch and then drilled a new hole so that I could get that screwed in properly. Now the last step to this is actually getting the VHB tape, pulling that red piece off of it so you can push the tape down onto the roof. And what I had done before I set this whole frame down was put some spacers underneath there so that once I had the front screwed down, we could just pry up the back a little bit, pull off that red piece of the tape, and then use our weight to just push everything down and get it nice and secured to the roof. Alright, so in this part of the video I want to show you guys how we do the die coring. Basically you want to die core over any gaps or holes that you put in the roof. And so here you can see this is the middle frame rail for my middle solar panels. Because I set this on top of the trim piece that has screw heads and die core over it, it created a bunch of little gaps. And so what you want to do is you want to seal that up to keep out any rain or water. If you put die core on in the evening when it's cooler outside, you can actually smooth it over like you see here, just like you can with caulk. And instead of it just running down and doing its thing, you can sort of shape it over so that it seals up everything exactly how you want it to. Now if you have to fill in any gaps, you can just come back over this stuff after it dries, because it does take about 48 hours for this die core to completely dry. And so what I found was there's a little gap right there in the middle. You can see I had to come over back a day later and smooth that over with some more die core. Now when it came to the actual main connection points that you saw me screw in for each side frame rails, what I did off camera was I took the screws out and then just squirted a ton of die core down the screw hole. And as you can see here, it's all pulled up and surrounding the screw, and I put it back in, and you can see it's just all sealed up and there's just no water that's going to get down in there. And so that's something you really want to make sure that you accomplish really well, because especially with this square tube, you sort of have this area here that's inside of the tube that has a hole in it, and you want to make sure that it's completely sealed from the elements. And so again, that's why I took that screw out, squirted a bunch of die core down in there, and then put it back in, and it looks like this. And it doesn't need to look pretty, you just need to make sure it's sealed up properly. Now when we talk about the actual frame rails going down the back that are going to be our main connection points, because again we're not screwing into the roof, what I initially did, because the connection seemed so strong with the VHB tape, was I didn't actually die core over it. We went on a couple trips, and this was a few weeks after we had installed this, is what you're looking at, and you can actually see that here on this left frame the VHB tape started to pull away, and I think because the sun might have actually warped these square tubes a little bit, and just the undulation of the roof and everything, it caused these to pull up. And so I had to actually go back over and die core over this, because you can see here that really only the very middle of the VHB tape is held down, and on one side of it, on the right side of this frame, there actually was a bunch of big gaps. So if you haven't actually seen die core in action, here you can see what I'm doing is I'm just squirting a big bead halfway up this frame rail, and then you're just going to let gravity do its thing and pull this down. And this is what Dicor is known for. This is why they call it self-leveling, is because if you squirt it down just on a level surface, it'll just pull and smooth itself out in a flat way, I'll say. So it'll just turn out flat. But if you squirt it onto an edge like this, you can actually see that gravity will pull it down. And this is again why you want to make sure that you clean your frame rails really good and you clean your roof really good, is because you can let this just do its thing, and it'll over time just pull down and start creating a nice seal on half of the frame rail, and then draping down onto the rubber membrane of the roof, and it'll make a really nice connection point. So again, this takes about 48 hours to completely cure, and you are going to possibly notice some different gaps and cracks and little holes that pop up, and then you can easily just go back over those whenever you find them with Dicor. So here's what Dicor looks like just a little bit after it's been laid down. Again, this is going to take about 48 hours to cure, so you want to make sure that you don't touch this or disturb it in any way, because it is super soft at this point. But you can see it just lays down really nice. It's going to pull down on the bottom and create a really nice connection point between these rails and the roof membrane. Now here on the left rail, left side of the trailer, you can see that actually there's some gaps there where the Dicor seeped under it and wasn't enough to actually fill those in. So again, you just want to let it do its thing and come back a couple days later and fill those in with some fresh Dicor, and you'll be good to go. Okay guys, so here's the finished product. Check it out. I'm really satisfied with how it all came out. We've had it up here for a few days and generating some power here at home. We're about to hit the road, and I just wanted to give you guys sort of a few ideas and tips on things I've been encountering the last couple days based on using these flexible panels. And if you remember, I only used the one support here in the middle. Well, on these two front ones on the both sides, on the far sides, because we have this raised area that we dealt with by curving that aluminum bar, this panel warped really bad. I didn't get a picture of it before, but it basically had a big dip in it right here from, I guess, heating up, because these have a little bit of space under them. You can see this one, I taped it down so it's actually stuck down, and none of the other ones seem to be doing that too bad. So anyways, I stuck a little spacer in there, a piece of PVC, and we're gonna see how that holds. I'll Dicor that down later on, but just be aware that if you do have some voids as far as like space in between your panels and the roof, more like this, because it doesn't seem to be doing it on the more ones that are like square, completely flat against where the bars are flat against the roof. But just be aware that you might need to put some other spacers. So I might have to end up coming back and put more spacers under here to help raise it. The other thing I did, if you noticed in the video, that I was saying how I only screwed this front bar down with basically one screw, and that was because once I screwed it into here, it is actually attaching to the main frame of the trailer. It was so solid that once I screwed these ends down for these sets of panels on each end, these are all connected now by little L brackets here. It was so solid, I didn't feel a need to actually make more holes into the trim here. So we only have 1, 2, 3 in the middle, and then 4, 5 on the end down there on that other panel as actual screw-in points to the trailer frame. And then you can see I Dicor'd over them, and it's not meant to look pretty, it's just supposed to seal everything up, so you can see how that looks, and hopefully that'll seal out any wind and rain and everything else. So pretty happy with the way it turned out. And then on this Dicor here that goes across the front, because there were sort of some different gaps, because it is sitting on top of screw heads here that are under Dicor, I actually just smoothed it out. If you put Dicor on more in the evening when the sun's not completely just baking it, you can actually sort of form it a little bit and smooth it out like caulk. So As far as the wiring goes, you can see, I'll get to the other side, but I have it coming out of the antenna base now. That worked out perfect. And then I have a 4-into-1 parallel, splitter. And so that's what you're looking at there, that mess. So we've got each panel hooked up in series as far as these sets go. So these two are in series, this front one and that back one are in series, and then those two back there are in series. And then their positive and negatives are coming off and going into that parallel splitter right there. So it's working out pretty well. So I'm gonna give you a view on the other side. Basically the same. We figured out our spacing so that we could accommodate our panel here as well as our wires and make sure that everything could go together. So like you saw in the video, I basically just built these parts in the middle on the roof, so everything was custom fit and fitting exactly as I was hoped. So looks really good. Got it all sealed up here. This panel hasn't been warping. It didn't dip down like the other one. We'll see what happens on our trip, but bringing along some PVC extra spacers and VHB tape and die-core, so we'll see how that goes. You can also see I was able to space out this middle one to have an air gap on both sides, not only for my wires to go through, but also allows the air to flow through, so that's pretty nice. And then you can see all my wires were able, basically because I had this little rise in it that's here and on these middle ones, I was able to fish my wires underneath, so you can see that's really clean and nice looking with the way that the wires can go in between each panel in the space and down underneath. So really satisfied with the way that came out. And then you can all right, everybody, well, that's going to do it for the in-depth video on how to create and install a solar panel system for your recreational vehicle. We hope you guys liked the video because, for us, everything's been working out great. The system has been installed now for about 9 months and it's been working out perfect for us. We have no leaks. We have nothing to show us visually that the system is like, pulling itself up off the roof from traveling or anything like that. So again, the way that we got it mounted into there has been proven really, really sturdy for us, and we have no complaints so far. The only thing that, again, that we mentioned early in the video is instead of using that VHB tape on the back side of the flexible panel where it mounts to the aluminum frame, don't use VHB tape. Use that Velcro instead if you're going to use anything, and you'll be much better off if you decide to take the panels off for, like right now, it's winter time and we took them off to just keep them out of the snow, and it was a really big pain in the butt to get that VHB tape off of there. So use that Velcro and you'll be much better off. Now, when it comes down to our system, the frames that we developed and how we connected it to our camper trailer, there's going to be varying opinions out there because, again, there's a lot of people who have already made solar panel systems for their recreational vehicle, for years now. And a lot of people do use T-Track and they attach it to their camper trailer or RV in different ways. But again, we think that the way that we created this was sort of a better way and was one of the least intrusive ways of actually attaching the frame rails and the whole system to our camper trailer. We wanted to avoid drilling a bunch of holes through the roof membrane, and even though we did drill into that trim piece along the front of the camper trailer, we were able to actually squirt die-core down into there and all over it, and know that we were able to get it all completely sealed up a lot better than I think I would have been able to, again, if I'm just screwed those aluminum frame square tubes down to the frame rails along the side of my camper trailer. So to each his own. People, again, are going to have varying opinions on our system and how we mounted it and everything. But again, we made this video to give people ideas and some tips and things to look out for just when you're talking about solar panels and what to think about and how to get them installed. So again, hopefully it helps anyone out there who's thinking about doing that with some of those tips and ideas on what to do. So again, please help support the channel by purchasing through our affiliate links that we'll have listed at nailedorfailedreviews.com. There's a lot of parts and pieces that it takes to do this, and we'll have a bunch of them listed there for you. So again, please help us out by purchasing with those affiliate links. Also remember to hit that subscribe button because we have a lot more installation and review videos coming down the pipeline for everyone to watch. If you're interested in how we modified a bunch of different things on our 2019 Coachmen Apex Nano, again, hit that subscribe button. We'll be coming out with the videos soon on how to create that battery system that you saw installed in our camper trailer. That's going to be sponsored by a company called BatterySystems.net. It's a really great company that has locations in each state all over the United States where you can go and buy a whole variety of batteries. So that's where we picked up our batteries, from BatterySystems.net. So check them out, BatterySystems.net/locations, and you'll be able to find a location near you where you can actually go and buy some batteries if that's what you need for your car, or camper trailer, or solar system, whatever you're looking to do. So hit that subscribe button for that video. And also we're coming out with a video sponsored by Stromberg Carlson. They make an accessory hitch. This is a hitch to actually replace our camper trailer bumper because it recently broke off, and we're going to be replacing that bumper with an adjustable hitch that will bolt onto our frame. You can actually weld it on if you wanted to, tow a car with it. But we're going to be coming out with that video soon to show you guys how to install one of those hitches if you're looking to carry a bike rack or any other accessory rack and carry a bunch of weight on the back of your trailer. Your bumper's not going to suffice, and so you're going to want to watch that video on how to get that Stromberg Carlson adjustable hitch installed on your camper trailer. Again, hit that subscribe button and like if you like. Thanks for watching Nailed or Failed Reviews.